Just left my house, going to Australia.
Welcome to Modern Grand Tour with me, Garland Lowe. Join the journey as we spend 3 months travelling to the other side of the world. Like the Grand Tours of old, we'll immerse ourselves in foreign cultures and feed our curiosity for the world with the diverse education that comes only with travel. We'll go on walking tours to understand the most popular and historic sites. We'll visit museums and pick out the most important objects and events. We'll talk to the locals and ask them what they think about their country. And there'll be some special moments off the beaten track. Travelling light with one small backpack, the itinerary for this trip begins with Belgium, followed by the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Russia, where we'll couch surf across the country via the Trans-Siberian Railway, then catch my first flights to South Korea and Japan before finally arriving in Australia, just in time for my best friend's wedding. In this 4th episode of the series, we'll learn how a port impacts the nature of a city, we'll explore the cult of the world's most socialist football team, and we'll map the stomping grounds of the world's biggest ever band. Guided by my first couchsurfing host on this trip, let's explore Germany's second city of Hamburg.
Here I am in Hamburg. First night, and I'm about to try a bike. See if I can film and ride a bike at the same time. This will be interesting.
Following Janina, my couchsurfing host, we immediately begin my time in Hamburg with a visit to the most important area of the city. Hamburg's success story is very much tied with its geography sitting on the River Elbe, giving it access to the North Sea and beyond. Taking off in the medieval times, Hamburg gained much wealth from its membership in the trading association known as the Hanseatic League, where it also gained its nickname, the Gateway to the World. After centuries of maritime trade, in 1847 the Hamburg America Line was created, which would become at the time the world's largest shipping company. This led to thousands of people from all over Europe arriving in Hamburg to emigrate to the Americas, taking with them their beef patty recipe, what we know today as the hamburger. In 1901, Hamburg businessman Albert Barlin invented and built the world's first purpose-built cruise ship, which left Hamburg for New York and the West Indies. And today, Hamburg remains a major cruise ship port of call, as well as being the 3rd busiest cargo port in Europe, after Rotterdam and Antwerp. Like all port cities, its access to the sea has been fundamental to the development of its history and culture, as we'll continue to learn in our exploration of Hamburg over the next 2 days.
So, welcome to my place.
Thank you very much.
Come in.
Amazing.
Now, this is my room, by the way. Come in. But I have more mattresses, but this is quite a good one.
Fantastic. This is great. Perfect.
A stranger, you let them into your house to stay the night. One of the most personal things you can have is your home. It's all about trust, and
Yeah.
it really is a great example of the kindness of humans to other humans.
When I was young, I always had a dream that when I slept in my bed and I heard sounds in the kitchen next door,
Yeah.
I always thought when I hear a voice that I haven't heard before, like, oh, a stranger came to our place, that's interesting. It was interesting to see people from outside of the family. Later, I found couchsurfing. I was like, okay, that sounds like it.
Yeah,
I slept in my bed, wake up, and maybe there's someone who's messing around in my kitchen and stuff. Speaking some language that is not mine.
So what do you think for other people? What is it that they
have a lot of positive energy. They're usually not scared of anything. They always bring something to my house because every person is unique.
Yeah.
And he brings all the background from his or her country. Yeah. And positive energy. Yeah. Because those people, they move all the time, so it's positive energy. Yeah, yeah. That's what I need. Yeah. Because I sit here and I'm depressed and I don't want to do anything, and then I just invite someone, and that person comes and suddenly nice. I'm busy, and they have a place to sleep, and I have someone who motivates me to go out or takes my mind off my problems.
That's cool.
In most cases, it saves my life.
Yeah.
That people are here.
Having got to know my couchsurfing host, it was time to head outside and learn about the city, which apparently has the most number of bridges in the world, which isn't so surprising when you look at the layout of Hamburg. What was more surprising was seeing these two outlets neighbouring each other, seemingly creating the world's first McDonald's club, which you could say sold two very different types of hamburgers. The most successful and well-known football team in the city is Hamburger SV. But the more interesting team in the city are their second division rivals, FC St Pauli, often referred to as the world's most left-wing football club. Not that kind. With its stadium, the Millantor, located on the doorstep of the city's port and red light district, FC St Pauli has a multicultural, working class and alternative thinking fan base. On match day, FC St Pauli's devout support is reflected in not only its near 100% attendance, massively exceeding average turnouts for second division teams, but also its high percentage of female supporters, adding to the famous carnival atmosphere. The fans even have their own emblem, the skull and crossbones, which originated in the 1980s when a fan brought a Jolly Roger flag into the stadium. A squatter symbol as well as of course a pirate's flag, the skull and crossbones was suitably adopted by the working class supporters living by the docks. Its fan-driven liberal ethos has seen the club officially adopt guiding principles that emphasise local community, social responsibility and tolerance and respect. This has led to a focus on charity work as well as a resistance to the commercialisation of the club. For me, the club is summed up best by one of its guiding principles. It's something I wish more organisations, not just football clubs, would take more into consideration. FC St Pauli is a club rooted in a city district. It owes its identity to this and has a social and political responsibility towards the district and the people who live there. Oh, and the fact that the team always enter the pitch with AC/DC blasting into the stadium is also pretty rocking.
So this is called Planten and Blomen. Plants and flowers. Oh, this man's just got his pants on. Is that normal?
Yeah, as long as he wears pants, everything's fine.
It's a very designed park, in the sense that you can see all the pathways and the flower beds and then the water features. It's all just very peaceful in this park, isn't it?
It is.
It's like the most peaceful place I've ever been. There's no extraneous activity. It's all just chill, relax, calm, read a book. We've just come out of the park and we're celebrating our little walk. Ice cream just makes people happy, doesn't it?
Of course.
I don't know why. And we're just wandering now because we don't care where we go because we all both have an ice cream in our hand. Out to Alster. Have a look at this. This is nice. Is that each of the cities must have a stereotype that the other people around them think about that. So Berliners, what are they more? Because they're from the capital, a bit more arrogant than the rest of the.
No, they're not arrogant.
Oh, they're not arrogant.
Yeah.
Okay, you're arrogant.
Yeah.
Hamburgers are arrogant.
Berlin is still growing and still changing.
Yeah.
Now for 25 years, and Hamburg has been there all the time for centuries.
Yeah.
So everything is there. The difference is there's mess, and here everything is in order. I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Okay.
People like mess because they think there's something going on, and here you can't change things.
So you prefer the order? You prefer?
Yeah. But I was born here. I'm used to it.
Okay.
And I don't want to go to Berlin. I have family there. I go there every now and then, but I'm always happy to return.
Right. Okay. You like the order?
I like the people. They are calmer.
In Hamburg?
Yeah, they're calmer. They walk a lot around like this. I trust those people more than those in Berlin who talk all the time. Blah, 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 blah.
But then can it ever be difficult to make friends in Hamburg if people
It is
also...
very difficult in the beginning. Yeah, very difficult. It takes a long time. But then you have them.
Then you have them and then you keep them. Okay.
And I like the weather. In Berlin there's no wind. Wind and water, yeah. I need that.
And here is the inner Alster.
The inner and outer Alster lakes are so called because they used to lie either side of the medieval city wall. Every few years, the lake freezes, presenting Hamburgers with an almost inconceivable amount of free space right in the middle of the city to do whatever they please.
Just enjoying the view, aren't they?
Yeah, you can see very far, you know. Usually your view's blocked by houses, and here it isn't, and that's why people like it. It's easy to relax.
At the top of the inner Alster lake is the Europa Passage, a seemingly ordinary shopping centre, until I saw this.
The Rathaus. the town hall or the city council. Ta-da! Massive. The Hamburg flag's on that corner over there. And you go across, there's one over there. And then there's one over there. And then there's one over there. And I'm surprised it's not bloody flying off the top of that. There's not a flag, but there's the emblem, the badge, on top of the door, so it's everywhere.
The Hamburg flag originates from its medieval coat of arms, with its three-towered castle symbolising the city's defences at the time. Unusually, the flag is used as both the city and state flag, due to Hamburg being one of the 3 city-states within the 16 states of Germany. In the evening, Janina took me for a walk down one of Europe's most infamous areas of vice, the Reeperbahn. Nicknamed the most sinful mile, this neon-lit street was historically the rope makers area and thus became a popular destination for sailors looking for amusement. Lined with restaurants, bars, theatres and nightclubs, it also offers sex shops, strip clubs and brothels. At the end of the Reeperbahn is Beatles-Platz, a public space dedicated to the band who had residency in nearby clubs between 1960 to 1962. Beatles-Platz includes a memorial showing the silhouettes of John, Paul and George, whilst the drummer represents both Ringo and the first Beatles drummer, Pete Best, both of whom played in the early days of Hamburg. Poignantly, there is also an extra silhouette standing alone just a few yards away. The lone figure is of the Beatles' original bassist, Stuart Sutcliffe. It was Stuart who, whilst in Hamburg, was daring enough to go against rock and roll fashion by being the first to ditch the Brill cream and instead have his German girlfriend, photographer Astrid Kircher, style his hair into the mop top. Lennon is said to have collapsed laughing on seeing the haircut, and it took several months before John, Paul and George, but notably not Pete, followed suit. In 1961, having got engaged and accepted into Hamburg Art School, Stuart announced to the other Beatles, "I'm out of the band, lads. I'm going to stay in Hamburg with Astrid." 1 year later, he tragically died in Hamburg of a brain hemorrhage, a delayed consequence from a fight in Liverpool whilst being a member of the Beatles. As we enter Grosse Freiheit, the Reeperbahn's liveliest area, we pass the Beatles' old stomping grounds, all within a few minutes' walk of each other. Located towards the back of the street is the Beatles' first residency at the Intro, where they were each paid £2.50 per night, playing 7-hour sets, 7 nights a week, and taken stimulant drugs to keep them awake as the German nightclub owner would repeatedly bark, "Mach schau," meaning make a show. Coming back towards the corner of the main stretch, the second Beatles club is the Kaiserkeller, where after John is missing on stage due to more amorous matters with a lady friend, he finally runs on and plays in just his pants and a toilet seat around his neck. Also during this time, Stuart's girlfriend Astrid becomes the unofficial Beatles photographer. Returning back onto the Reeperbahn outside the subway station, the Beatles' third club is the Top 10, where Stuart leaves the band and Paul reluctantly takes over bass duties with his new Hamburg-bought Hofner violin bass. The new 4-piece also make their first ever recording in Hamburg. Although it was as a backing band, it would be this record that catches the attention of future manager Brian Epstein. And lastly, back onto Grosse Freiheit is the Star Club, where Pete Best is fired due to a combination of his aloofness and drumming ability, and is replaced by old friend of the Beatles, Ringo. Looking back on its importance, Lennon said, "We had to play for hours and hours on end. Every song lasted 20 minutes and had 20 solos in it. That's what improved our playing," adding, "I might have been born in Liverpool, but I grew up in Hamburg." With its abundance in sex, drugs and rock and roll, it was the Reeperbahn which toughened and tightened the teenage Beatles in preparation for the world to come.
We are not good at saying what we are good at. We always have this problem of like understatement.
Sure.
All the time. I mean, look at the women walking around in Germany. They try to be it as, I call it plain. And you never show off with what you have.
Okay.
That's something you don't do. You don't say, "I earn more than you. I'm better. I'm a great person." You knock yourself down all the time. Like, you need to feel guilty because of history. It's history, and you have to carry it around. Yeah. It's so strong that we don't have any national pride.
That's really kind of a powerful statement. It's so strong, there is no national pride. And national pride takes its form in other things, like, for example, via sport.
We had a change in 2006 when the football world championship was in Germany. It was the first time we noticed that we can be a good host.
Right.
That we can have foreign countries here. I mean, we had tourists before, but still this was different. And the first time I saw German flags hanging outside on the balconies, and people were really scared, like, can I do that?
Okay.
Show the flag of my own country?
Really
the neighbor does it, okay, I can do it. And now people are not so afraid of it anymore.
Right.
To walk around with our flag.
Yeah.
Start to ask myself, why? Why do I need to feel guilty? Why do I need to hide my citizenship, my nationality? Why do I need to be afraid when I go somewhere else and say I'm German? We nearly have no culture anymore. It's all destroyed because everything was misused by Hitler. There's nothing to cling on to, except of we are hardworking and we have a lot of money to give to others, and that's our duty. That's the only thing we can be proud of. But again, understatement. Don't be proud of it.
Okay, so here I am, leaving Janina's place in St. Pauli. Bye! Bye! Right, here we go. So I've got to get to the city centre by myself. This is the first time I'm in Hamburg by myself, which feels a bit odd. Keep walking for the next about 45 minutes. And then I get to the train station, put my bag down, and then walk back to the central area where I can start my tour.
Now, something great happened to the city in 1189 that you really need to know if you want to understand the history of Hamburg. And this year, Hamburg got a very special charter from a guy called Barbarossa.
Holy Roman Emperor Barbarossa's charter gave Hamburg the status of an imperial free city. This meant that the city gained certain autonomy, which included, most importantly, not having to pay tax to the emperor.
So with Hamburg having this tax-free status, everyone started to come here to the city and do trade here in the city. About the same time, Hamburg also became a part of something called the Hanseatic League. It was basically a trading organization throughout all of Northern Europe. The center of the Hanseatic League was in the city of Lübeck, and all the goods coming into the city of Lübeck that needed to go to the North Sea came through the city of Hamburg. And Hamburg profited very much from this relationship. Things were going great for the city until the year 1842. It literally changed the face of the city, destroyed over a quarter of the city. In fact, it started right here, and the wind blew it over in this direction. If you look over at those buildings, then take a look over in that direction at those buildings over there, what way do you think the Great Fire went? Exactly, there's lots of old beautiful buildings over here and a lot of ugly new buildings over in that direction. So the wind was blowing in that direction. After the Great Fire, the Hamburg did rebuild and things were going great again for the city until about 100 years after the Great Fire. Now, if you look down here, you'll see these small plaques in the ground. These are what are called Stolpersteine, which translated means stumbling stones.
Spread across Europe, the Stumbling Stones is the largest non-centralised memorial in the world.
You can find them all over Hamburg, all over Germany, several other countries as well, and they are basically small memorials for the victims that were murdered by the Nazi regime. They are usually placed in front of the houses where the people used to live or where the people used to work. So here we have about 24 plaques here. These were all members of the Patriotic Society who were forced out in 1935 due to Nazi law that prohibited any Jews in participating in any kind of civil activity. Their properties were confiscated, their businesses were confiscated, they were arrested and taken to different concentration camps where they were eventually murdered. So if you do see any of these plaques, you'll know what they're there for. They're basically to remind us of the victims of the Nazis. Hamburg was devastated again in 1943 during the bombing campaign against the city in the Second World War. In fact, the bombing campaign against Hamburg was the largest bombing campaign in the history of the world at that time. It was so devastating, the British actually nicknamed it the Hiroshima of Germany. 60% of the city was wiped off the face of the earth, 80% of the ports destroyed, 35,000 people killed. So a major devastation during the Second World War. After the Second World War, though, Hamburg did rebuild, especially in what was called the economic wonders of the 50s and 60s that was going throughout all of Western Germany, the third largest port in all of Europe. Today, Hamburg has become one of the richest cities in all of Germany, and it has more millionaires and billionaires than any other city in Germany as well.
And so with the tour over, I was ready to depart Germany's second city and gateway to the world, having understood how much of its identity is rooted in its access to the sea. From its wealth first generated by its tax-free trade as a member of the Hanseatic League, to the Reeperbahn's most sinful mile catering towards visiting sailors, and from its socialist sporting ethos championed by the workers around the docks, to the calm nature of Hamburgers fostered by the natural environment. Join me in the next episode, where in Denmark's second largest city of Aarhus, we'll be staying with an old friend and learning about Danish food, Danish kings, and the concept fundamental to understanding Danish culture, hygge. So until next time, Godspeed.